I wasn't living in La La Land like most people do when they first start their career. Or if they're watching this, they're like, wow, I want to become a CRO. Like, what is the magic? What's the secret formula? There isn't one. There's a process and it's laid out and you just follow it.
Welcome to Scale Sessions, the podcast that helps revenue leaders like you boost sales and revenue to achieve business growth with in the trenches insights.
We can skip the fluff and focus on real-world strategies you can use right away.
Each episode brings you actionable takeaways from sales and revenue leaders navigating growth challenges like you. Let's dive into today's session and scale up your success. Nazma Qurban is one of the UK's most respected growth operators. She joined Cognism as the first hire and played a pivotal role in scaling it from 0 to 10 million ARR as CRO. Today, she's the founder of Flooencer, a B2B influencer marketing platform that's rewriting the rulebook on how SaaS companies grow. Nazma, welcome to Scale Sessions. Nazma, I am so excited to have you on the pod today because even though I've known you for quite a few years, I don't think we've ever had more than a sort of 10-minute conversation without being interrupted. So now I really get to dive into your career history. And I'm really interested, first of all, you started with a degree in law and then you went into revenue and sales. Did you actually start thinking you were going to be a lawyer?
I guess so. At the time, my career didn't start, my career path didn't start when I decided to study law. It started a long time before that. So when I was 15, I had a part-time job in the evenings where I was cold calling. So in the evenings, I used to go to this cold calling centre and they would take books out of the BT Yellow Pages at the time. And I'd have to call people at home whilst they were having dinner and sell them timeshare appointments. And so that was a very, very first job that I had. And I'd worked ever since then. So I've had jobs as a sales assistant. I've been selling door-to-door vacuum cleaners. So I've had so many jobs and I was still working whilst I was studying. And once I'd graduated, I realised I didn't want to pursue law. I had some work experience and I found it quite boring. And for me, it felt like a natural route to take. Of course, my parents were very disappointed because they wanted me to be a lawyer. And actually at the time, sales wasn't as, well, I guess now it's a cool career to have. But for me, it felt like a natural path to take with the experience that I had. So yes, I decided to study law because I like the idea of being a lawyer, but the reality was very different.
Far more boring than you thought. I cannot believe you were doing cold calling at 15. I've had some phenomenal CROs say they started their sales career doing cold calling maybe at university, but 15 is so young. That's when I was waitressing, I think, and other people are working shops. What drove you to have this like incredibly stressful job? Did you find it stressful at the time, cold calling people while they're having dinner?
No, I just loved the idea that I can have my own money and I can buy my own clothes. So that was my motivation. My motivation was that I wanted money to buy clothes. I've always loved clothes. And so, that was the driver because my parents weren't going to give me money to,
Were you the top performer? Were they astounded with how you were just a natural at the selling?
It wasn't natural. There was a lot of rejection, but I didn't know any different. And when you're so young and you're naive, you're like, oh, this is the way that the world works. This is work. It's supposed to be hard. You're supposed to do this. So that naivety really worked to my advantage.
And so actually going into an SDR role must have been so much more of a simple transition for you than someone coming into it cold because you'd already done half of this before.
You'd say that, but I think I was so young at that time. I was so naive. And then I had so much more experience, like face-to-face, selling mobile phone contracts. So when I left university, my very first job was in recruitment. And that was really hard and really intensive because it was all of a sudden professional. And there was a lot more at stake because it was a career. It wasn't just a job. Like I would just try my best in my job and hope that it worked. Whereas when it's your career, there's a lot more, I guess, pressure. And I wasn't as good in reality. And I just put in the hours and got better. So it definitely did not feel like it was easy for me. If anything, I always felt that I was probably the weakest link in when I was going to interviews or assessments, because I think some people have a natural knack of communicating and like off the cuff, whereas I don't. And it's something that I've had to work on and develop. And having to develop that skill actually helped me because I then correlated hard work with getting better and building skill sets and not feeling overwhelmed if I'm in a room of people that are doing the same job as me, but are far better in the beginning at the front line.
Because you know you're going to put the graft in and you'll get there. And I'm guessing, is that one of the reasons why you had this incredible career journey in those first 5 years? You went from an SDR to a CRO in 5 years. Unbelievable. Yes. How did that journey pan out, though? What were the steps you took to get?
So many. I'd say the most important, if we're talking specifically about Cognizant, I started as an AE and then I grew into that role. But I think as a career in general, one of the things that I feel, I read this like a while ago, like 10 years ago, and it was this book. This is a very funny story. So it was a book about dating, and there was a movie that was made out of it, and it's like, He's Not That Into You. It's a great movie, a great watch. And one of the very first rules is that you're not the exception, you're the rule, and follow the rule. And my journey, actually what happened was, when I was a recruitment consultant, I then wanted to transition into tech sales, and I interviewed for AE roles and I did not get a job. And it was a reflective moment for me, because I realized actually anyone that works in tech starts off as an SDR. I'm not the exception, I am the rule. So I need to go through that process. And it's so interesting because I started my role as an SDR at 27. Now, me and you both know average age is probably 21, 22, right? So I was far older, but what I did really well was accept that I'm the rule and did a really good job. And ironically, I then became a poster child for fast progression. But what I did do very well was I just followed the rules, followed processes and executed them one day at a time. I wasn't living in La La Land like most people do when they first start their career. Or if they're watching this, they're like, wow, I want to become a CEO. Like, what is the magic? What's the secret formula? There isn't one. There's a process, and it's laid out, and you just follow it.
How did it feel going back into being an SDR at 27 when you were surrounded with a team that was much younger?
Humbling. I had AEs that were 23, 24 years old, so it was quite humbling. And I had to put the blinkers on and not think about anyone else's performance. And like, it's really important. And I also had a realization. I remember cold calling, I was listening to someone else's calls and I was trying to compare myself and quite to learn. It's like, I need to water my own garden. And I think that's so important. We need to focus on watering our own gardens, because when we're so obsessed, we're looking at other people's success, we feel like we're behind, which a lot of us feel. It's a very normal emotion to have as you're going through life in every single area. If we feel that we had a plan and it's gone off route, we just get into our head and then we're just obsessing and we're not doing the work that's required. So I think I was very good at just focusing on being the best that I could. And here we are today.
I really like that. Stop comparing yourself with others and really focus on you and doing what you can do at your very best. So tell us a bit about that journey at Cognizant, because you joined, I think, as the head of BD, built the sales book, rose to CRO, reached 10 million AR. A pretty amazing story. What were your most successful plays there?
Hiring. I, as everyone does, made mistakes early in my career when it comes to hiring, but I learned really quick about how to spot talent, how to interview for good talent, and I built like the most amazing team. So the team played like 90% of like the part of the success. For sure, no question about it. So I'm very, very blessed, very, very lucky that I was able to develop that skill set. The second thing is, and I see this time and time again, and we work together at SIA, and with SIA, which is, and for those that don't know, after my journey at Cognizant, I did a stint there and I built that to 2 million, and it was a predictable engine. And the reason for that is I had a capacity plan. And so one thing that I did really well at Cognizant from the offset is I had a capacity plan which was reverse engineered. And I ensured that every single person that was revenue generating, like the targets were very clear, they were set out and we were monitoring them. We had monthly reporting meetings. I was looking at data on a weekly basis. Everything was scrutinized. I was looking at the data, making changes, adjusting. So I had a capacity plan. I've always had a capacity plan, and that's really allowed me to achieve the goals. And I mean, I never missed, I'm not even kidding, I never missed a target at Cognizant. The only month I did was in March 2020, and we all know what happened then. But I tell you something that my most proudest moment during my entire journey at Cognizant was that month. Basically, 70% of our pipeline was completely like wiped out for obvious reasons. I think we were at 60% achieved, and quick turnaround. We basically sat down and thought, okay, right, who are the companies that are going to actually be scaling during this time? There's going to be remote companies. There's going to be companies that are going to be like serving this new environment. Created a list, got marketing aligned. All the outbound cadences were like changed. We basically we hit our target, 120% our target in April, and 80% of the pipeline was generated in that given month. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and the way that we did it, and it's that capacity planning, like looking at things on a weekly basis, and then also, so it's the numbers play and being really detailed. I'm like very detail orientated, so that if, for example, we have a bad month when it comes to pipeline, so you're at 80% capacity, and a lot of businesses that actually do this, and this sounds like a really simple thing to do, but I always have a revenue ops meeting where we go through all of like what the goals were and how we did. Now, if the opportunity, if you're at 80%, your sales cycle in 6 months, it's going to impact you in 6 months' time. So you have to make changes and you have to compensate it for it the next month, and everything is burning. And so you then think about what actions you need to take in order to ensure that you don't miss the 6 months. And so that was huge. So I'd say that was 10%. So 90% of the team, 10% is like capacity planning.
And also that ability to see an issue and face up to it and go, right, what do we need to do? And then pivot very quickly,
100%.
Which is amazing that you went from missing target in March to smashing it in April. Can I just ask a little bit more about your interview process? You said you got really good at spotting talent. Any tips on that? Like great interview questions, how to really recognise a potential fabulous SDR AE?
Okay, so I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent.
Love a tangent.
Love a tangent. There's this guy called Naval Ravikant, and he was the founder of AngelList. He, I would say, is one of the greatest minds living, one of the greatest philosophers of our time. I'm not exaggerating. So he does this interview with a guy called Kapil Gupta, and they talk about prescriptions, how everyone wants like guides, like how to tell me how to do this, tell me how to do this. And sometimes the reality is it's in the doing. And if you ask Steve Jobs to write down everything that he did, you wouldn't be able to do it. If you ask as someone who's a sports professional and they say, well, they're in tennis, and then they hit the racket in a specific way, a specific angle, and they're very precise. So they don't even know what they're doing. And so I think that one thing that I've learned is sometimes quite difficult for me to quantify, right? And it is in the actual doing that we're able to learn ourselves. And so I don't know. So I will answer the question, but what I'm saying is that it's in the doing. Like I can't give a prescription because everyone is different, and I might miss things, right? So there's no kind of like set formula. And I would say that, okay, so I had a long process. So I had set up the team so they knew exactly what I was looking for. So I would only do the final stage. And in the final stage, I guess for me, looking at a profile, seeing some, if it's in sales, that they've been excellent at some point in their life, whether it's in sports, whether it's academic, so that they're high achievers, because that's a reality. And like there are anomalies, but what we're doing is we're not the exception with the rule. We look out for the rules, and like that's just, when I see high performers, they tend to have been successful, and success seems to be something that is going to be a natural evolution in the journey. Of course they're going to be successful, because look at when they were successful, right? It's very rare that you find someone who's not done anything like exceptional, been a like top of the class, an exceptional person, and then get into sales, and all of a sudden they're amazing. Like there's usually a trend. So I'd say like an indicator would be something that they've done.
And for you, going from SDR right up to CRO, there must have been a huge amount of mindset change, because you're going from being very much in the execution side to management to leadership. Were there areas that you had to sort of unlearn as you progressed up?
Yeah, letting go. I only realized recently that I'm a control freak. So yeah, letting go. I think actually, this probably doesn't answer your question. Because it was my first role and I grew, then I became a leader. So I became a leader in that role. Right. So it's not like I was a leader in another organization, then I had to unlearn. So I was lucky that I had that. And I think it was the unlearning was probably just like the mindset, I guess, rather than skill set specifically.
And how did you learn to let go? Because I see so many people, including myself, really struggle with that as you go up the career ladder.
I had great mentors and it became a bottleneck, right? I became the bottleneck. And I knew that I couldn't scale when I was the go-to person. And I also had, I mean, you know, James Key, he came to the office, I was at Cognizant, and he was like, Nazma, like, you can't scale like this, because every 2 minutes people were coming up to me and they were needing me and they were relying on me. And it wasn't that I wasn't empowering them, the leaders, the other leaders, it's that I wasn't saying to those that were coming to me, because I wanted to be approachable, like that's me, like that's the magic in my leadership. And I didn't want to let go of that, because I was like, well, then I'm going to disconnect from this person, because that's how I connect with junior people. So having to do that was really challenging, and having to direct them and being like, oh, why don't you go, like, oh, this person could answer that question for you. So it was also something that was, it wasn't just surface level leadership, it was also like emotional, like that emotional detachment. That was really painful, that I was unable to create those really deep, meaningful relationships with the new cohorts.
Yeah, that's really hard. What's the best advice you think you've had from a mentor?
This is going to be so controversial, but I'm just going to say it. I was 17 years old and I was working in a clothing store, and the guy owned it. But what he said was, if you want to progress, like first one in, last one out. And I said, why? He said, well, if you think about it, if you want to become a supervisor, of course I was selling at the time, so I was just part-time. And you think, if you're always there and like you're there before and you're there at the end, and for example, there's an emergency, people are going to rely on you, right? You're the reliable person. And I took that into the business world, that I was getting in first and I was leaving last. And the impact of that, my career would have been completely different if I didn't follow on that. And the reason for that is, earlier on in my career, I was getting in first. And what that meant was the leaders of the organization would like see that I was there. And like being seen is important, right? And it's not who the loudest is, right? It's being seen. I also had the opportunity to talk to those in leadership, even though I wasn't there to talk to them. That wasn't the intention. It was also just to get ahead of my day. And then in the evenings, like I remember I was cold calling, and the CEO of the first tech company that I worked for was sitting next to me. And I'd called this woman so many times, and she was like, oh, I'm really busy. I've got this problem. So, you know, I'm calling back next week. And then anyway, one day she eventually spoke, said, okay, right, what is it? I pitched her why I was calling her, and she said, can you do X, Y, Z? And I said, I was unsure. He took the phone and he explained what they did. And she said, I'm so glad I had this conversation, because I've been busy for the last 3 weeks trying to find a solution for this specifically. But the thing is, I learned that we were able to do this. So it helped my product knowledge. And then I also had exposure. And I just feel, and I've seen the correlation because of people that show up beforehand, before work, and I've never advocated to anyone in my team, because it's hard for me to do that, right? It's unfair. I don't want to but in general, that I think was fundamental. My nephew got into sales. I said the same thing to him, and it was astonishing, like how he was able to develop in his role versus the peers that had been working there for like 6-9 months. So I think that's really important. I know a lot of people would just be like, well, I don't want to do that. That's fair. If you don't want to, if that's not something that you want to grow, develop your career, then that's fine. But if you do want to, I would say that's the one thing that I would do, that I would say, just do that and see how things materialize. Because you get in early, so you're going to be prepared for the day. So you're winning anyway.
Yeah. that early start. And talking about, putting the grind in, getting in there early, you also talk about paying the leadership tax and sacrifices that come with progressing fast. What do you think is the price leaders have to pay?
I think I definitely didn't feel like I was sacrificing because I was very much on a journey that I wanted to be on. I think the reality is that some people think, okay, right, I can just do my 9 to 5. I was growing a team. I've had to coach them. So my hours 9 to 6:30 were completely, I would not get any work done because I'm just focusing on mentoring, being on calls, helping them. And so how do I get my day job done? I'd have to do it in the mornings. I had to do it in the evenings or on the weekends when everything is so fast in the startup. And at the end of every day, there's like 10 really important processes I need to roll out. I'd have to do that. And it's just not possible at the rate of growth that we were on, that I could do that in specific hours. And I think it's just a reality. Like, you do need to pay leadership tax. You have to be there for your team. You have to also show up as a leader, as an executive. You need to be doing all your reporting. You need to be learning as you're growing, as I did. And I can't do that 9 to 5. It's just not possible. And I think that it's really important to be open and transparent about it, because if that's something that you don't want to do or you don't like the idea of it, then that's totally fine. But something needs to give.
And how do you marry that with the whole work-life balance?
Yeah, I just don't believe in work-life balance. Like, it's all integrated. It's all one. We have one life.
Exactly. And if you love what you do, then
exactly,
is it work?
You can't switch off. And it's almost like, and I'm seeing less of this, but those who show up and have a specific persona for work. I mean, I am completely fully myself. And that is one of the reasons why I think that I was really able to grow the way that I did. I had an amazing CEO, James Islay, and I think for the very first time, I could be authentically myself, which means that I brought in my whole self at work. My fun side, my get shit done side, I could have fun. I'm the same person at work evening events than I am on the weekends. And I'm celebrated for who I am fully. So, if there's an email that comes in that will take me 2 minutes to respond, I'm not going to, because I'm like, oh, I need balance. What am I doing? So that's my philosophy. That's what I believe in, that there is no balance. There's literally, there can't be technically, right? Like, how many hours of life and how many hours of work?
Yeah. And it's a choice, isn't it? And it depends what you want to achieve and also how much you enjoy it as well and what's important to you. So now you're co-founder at Flooencer. So how did that come about?
I mean, I've been consulting since Cognism, and then I had a short stint, and my first SDR Cognism is the founder, CEO, which is hilarious. And he actually was talking to me about this idea that he had about a marketplace. And the more that I looked into it, it was a no-brainer for me, because of course what I'm doing in my job, my profession, is all about solving go-to-market. Like, how do you take companies to market? How do you grow revenue? And the reality is buyer behavior has changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's so different to what it was 5 years ago. People, and even at that time, back in the days, there was 2 products for cadences: outreach and sales love, right? So very simple. You would do a demo, you make a decision. Now, there is no way a revenue leader would make a decision on tech without asking someone that they know. Like
100%. All about the community, isn't it?
All about the community. And also we're consuming content in a different way. So we need to be educating people, our audience, online, and they look up to those that are thought leaders, subject matter experts. And so for me, I felt like this is a new channel that has been, in reality, been leveraged from the beginning of time with webinars, etc. But because there's so many more, there's a rise of creators online, it was a no-brainer. And it has been like the most exceptional journey of my life. And I can tell you now, the ROI that we bring in for clients is insane. So for me, it was so natural. Like I solve go-to-market. There's a gap here, and I love generating revenue and solving that problem. And I can now do that and help businesses, even traditional businesses, solve that problem. And so we work with like an array of like amazing companies, from Snowflake to Five to Cognizant.
Wow.
Find Amazon. It's just like it's been such an amazing journey. And also I think people understand. I mean, there's a report that was released a few months ago, and I mean the data is very clear. B2B buy, like those that buy, are looking at creators and subject matter experts, and it's throughout the entire sales process.
Yeah.
So it needs to be leveraged. So that's how it came about. And so it's something that I love doing and solving that problem. And yeah.
It's interesting because influence has been such a big space in D2C for so long. And I remember when I was at GoCards, I had my celebrity accountants. I don't think I knew the word influencer then, or I didn't know that's what they were, who were phenomenal for driving the brand forward. They would just, get on stage and just talk about us without me even asking them to. And that drove so much credibility for us that I couldn't possibly do however much marketing money I spent. And I think so often we still don't think that we're selling to humans. Yes, we might have a buying group, but they're all still people. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about B2B influencer marketing?
I think that those that understand the concept feel like, oh, it's just, a one-off post, because they think, oh, influencer marketing, it's similar to B2C. You'll ask somebody to write a post, but it's not like that at all. It's about being integrated into one's entire marketing strategy. Now, me and you worked at SIA, and SIA, I say that was the entire strategy around like building up partnership, leveraging thought leaders. And it wasn't something that was proactive, right? It was something that was a very natural.
It's very organic.
But a lot of that growth was because of the types of people that were working in that and talking about it. So yeah, I think the biggest misconception is that it's a very transactional approach, where it's not. Like, we work with clients on a 12-month basis where we're integrated with the entire marketing, and people aren't just like posting, they're doing webinars, they're co-creating content, they're writing as guest contributors, they're talking at events together. So it's a lot more sophisticated and well thought out than I think a lot of people expect.
Are you able to share like one real success story you've had with B2B influencer marketing and one of your clients?
Yes, we've got this amazing client called Replicate. He got funding. He had a choice. Either I hire 2 SDRs or I use his budget to basically use influencer marketing. And so what we did was, it's in sales enablement, hired every single person in sales enablement. He did not have a salesperson in the organization. Working with us for 6 months, he generated 200K of revenue purely from more than $1 million in pipeline without an SDR. And that is just the power. And that is a startup, right?
Yeah.
That's a startup who has an amazing product. And then he had his ICP target audience saying, I don't know what you've done, but I can't get you off my feed. And so it's about having all of those voices talking about you. That's one example. We have another one where, I mean, it's just you look at, they have 6 thought leaders, and there's sales qualified opportunities. There were, I believe, 60 sales qualified opportunities generated from those 6. Like, it's insane. It's insane. When you're leveraging a thought leader, you're getting in front of an already engaged audience
who trusts that person.
And so the conversion rate is naturally going to be higher, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's incomparable to paid, because you're already educating them, right?
And do you ever use yourself as one of the influencers on the platform? Because I imagine you get asked a lot for recommendations and suggestions.
Yeah. We're actually like changing our strategy over, but we're going to be posting a lot more. I'll tell you something really interesting, Nicola. So, you've read some of my posts, and I've been posting now. I've done maybe 2 posts about influencer marketing. My CEO is exactly the same. All of our revenue, all of our leads have come from either people that we know or LinkedIn posts. And I'd say about 60% of our revenue has come from LinkedIn.
Wow.
Incoming. This is like zero, like I'm being completely fully honest. Like we have inbound, and you will see the spike of when we're posting. When we're both regularly posting, we'll get 2 leads come in like that week. That is like ready to buy. Yeah.
So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of education that needs to be done around it. And that's like something that we're working on. We're like educating people, educating like the brand space, but also like the creators, because it's a growing space. And even with executives in organizations, they should be posting, because like people, I mean, there's so much stats around it, and you're seeing this in like larger organizations. The execs are now, posting, because people buy from people, not from brands. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so much of it's education to get your founders or your senior leadership to start posting. So much of it is confidence, you realize.
Yeah.
They're just like, I don't know what to write. And then once they get started, they're off.
Yeah. There's so many examples as well of like comparing the execs following. I mean, you can see Partner's probably a really good example versus like the actual brand. Like the people will get more of a following. So yeah, 100%. I agree.
So Flooencer at the moment.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Because I have a feeling there'll be some other exciting adventure coming up soon.
I'm a very focused person. I'm focused on today and just doing the best that I can do.
No 3-year plan?
No, I've never had a 3-year plan. I'm all about 3 months at a time.
Okay,
That's what helped me focus. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 3 months, what's next for Flooencer?
We are doubling down on the creators, the content that we're creating. We've got some really exciting clients like in the pipeline, and we're just going to be doubling down on our brand awareness. And so just getting out there, we've done a lot of work. Like I do feel that we have like an exceptional product, and our clients are really happy. So it's just like we're on the verge of like the scaling phase. And I've always done this. Yeah, because I don't think you should always do things, be consistent, get excellent. You're going to fail, you're going to learn. And then when you feel that, okay, right, now we have consistency in like delivery, we feel like we know exact like where the direction is, and we could double down. Like we're seeing all those signs now. So yeah.
Amazing. So watch LinkedIn for some more content coming soon. So, Nazma, we're going to just move on to our quickfire questions. Mm-hmm. So, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your career?
You're not the exception, you're the rule.
Nice. What's one belief you've changed your mind about?
Hard work is enough.
And what book or podcast do you recommend?
I'm very passionate about like self-development, and his name's Alex Icon. I really enjoyed, and he released one episode which I really enjoyed. I also like Tim Ferriss.
I love Tim Ferriss, but I don't know Alex Icon, so I'm going to check him out.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Yeah, it's an intelligence change podcast.
Right, noted. And how do you switch off after a busy day, if you do?
So the last month, it's been Love Island. So that's what I do. Everyone always judges me. I'm like, don't judge me. No. TV. I don't know. I was telling one of my colleagues, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do when it's over. So yeah, that's what I do. I love it. 9 p.m. I'm there. I'm like, nobody disturb me. You know not to call me at 9.
So if anyone has any suggestions for replacements for Love Island, do let Nazma know. And which female leader in your network should we interview next?
There's so many great ones. And you've already interviewed Shabri.
Mm-hmm. She was fabulous.
Laura? Have you interviewed Laura? You have to. She's brilliant.
I think you might be the second person that's recommended her, so you better get her on the pod.
And she's highly competent. She's so warm, and yeah, she's just like a great role model for younger, aspiring salespeople.
Fantastic. Right. We shall get on that one. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nazma. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
Thank you. I've enjoyed chatting to you. Laura Monez-Diarago.
Thanks for tuning in to Scale Sessions. If you found today's insights valuable, be sure to subscribe and leave a review.
Stay connected for more no-nonsense advice to help you scale your business, drive revenue, and achieve your growth goals.